Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Beauty of Language. So today, finally, I'm going to start the explanation of the poem Haunted Houses, ICSE Syllabus Class 10. And yes, I'm going to pronounce it as poem, not poem. I know it's a correct pronunciation, but still, poem से अपना अलग लगाव है. क्या poem लिखी है HW Longfellow ने, वो तो लिख के निकल गए. अब मीनिंग हमारे ऊपर छोड़ दिया. So it literally took me almost a week to prepare for this. It is so confusing. So sit tight, चाय पानी कॉफी जो पीना है पी लो and sit with a fresh and a firm mind कि आज at least 5 पैराग्राफ तो समझ के ही चल रहा है haunted houses से. So because it is going to take time to understand. Now, without wasting any time, let's get started. First thing first, about the poet. So the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was a much celebrated poet in the 19th century, American poet. His writings, whether lyrical, narrative, or descriptive, they were written in a very natural and traditional style. And this reminded Americans of their roots, that is where they came from, their origin. And students, please pay attention to the words and phrases I use because you can use them in your answers. So, Longfellow was very lovingly regarded as a fireside poet because it is said that his works were meant to be read out as a form of entertainment for family, for friends, sitting by a fireplace. So, he was a leading member of the Fireside Poets, a 19th century American literary group which included other great poets like William Cullen Bryant, John Greenleaf Whittier, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and James Russell Lowell. So his famous works are A Psalm of Life, Excelsior, Nature, etc. Now, these poems written by S.W. Longfellow, they highlight the qualities of compassion, tranquility, and didacticism. Didacticism means to teach people something, especially a moral lesson. So that is enough information about the poet and also to include in the answers if asked. Next, talking about the poem. So in the poem Haunted Houses, S.W. Longfellow, what he does is that he dispels the traditional spookiness of ghosts and presents them in a very gentle and very light manner. Okay, so his ghosts and phantoms are inoffensive and completely harmless. They merely float through doorways and halls. Like you must have seen in the movie Harry Potter, the nearly headless Nick, remember? And these ghosts are as silent as paintings on the wall. So there is a sense of comfort and familiarity in Longfellow's ghosts in this poem because it starts with a very assertive statement that all houses where men have lived and died are haunted. Mine, yours, and even your neighbor's house is haunted, but these hauntings are not terrifying, they're not evil. In fact, they are just the lingering memories of our departed dear ones. So the poem therefore explores nostalgia, the passage of time, and the enduring power of memories. Time scheme of the poem is ABAB. Next, talking about the main themes of the poem, then I have uploaded the shorts for it on my channel. You can watch it because already the explanation is going to be too long, so the video will be unnecessarily long. So if you want to watch the themes, watch my shorts on it. Okay? So starting with the first stanza, all houses wherein men have lived and died are haunted houses. Through the open doors, the harmless phantoms on their errands glide, with feet that make no sound upon the floors. Okay, so this the rhyme scheme, as I said, is ABAB. So the poet, he starts the poem by telling that whichever house men live in, it has a history, and whichever houses men lived, they are now dead, and they have become haunted houses. So these men about whom the poet is telling are the people who have touched our lives in a certain way, with whom we have encountered at a certain point in our lives. Now, here in this paragraph, phantoms means ghosts, And these ghosts, what do? They glide through the open doors. And since they are ghosts, so this line suggests that they can pass through anything. You must have watched movies where ghosts can pass through any physical objects. So this quality of the ghosts presents their ethereal nature. The glide means to move easily. And in these lines, the poet has mentioned the ghosts as harmless phantoms. So generally, whenever we hear the term ghost, what happens? It generates the feeling of spookiness, or we think them as dangerous. But here they are completely harmless, and they are what they are doing. They are just gliding through the doors to run some errands. Now, what does errands mean? It is a short journey to collect or deliver something. इस मम्मी बेचती है ना, जा बेटा धनिया ले आ, जा बेटा चीनी ले आ. So these are what? These are the errands. And while they glide, they don't make any sound with their feet on the floor. They are moving without making any sound, unlike the human beings. Moving on to the next stanza, we meet them at the doorway, on the stair. Along the passages, they come and go, impalpable impressions on the air, a sense of something moving to and fro. So, again, here we see that there's the rhyme scheme ABAB, stare, air, go, fro. Okay. So, in this paragraph, the poet says that we meet them at the doorway, we meet them at the stairs, we meet them at the along the passages. So, everywhere they just come, they just go. Now, this means that these phantoms, these ghosts, are literally everywhere. It is not that they are confined to a particular place. So we can meet them at the doorway, we can meet them at the stairs or along the passage. And what do they do at all those points, at all these places? What do they do? They just come and go. Next is impalpable impressions on the air. Now, impalpable impressions on the air, it means that these phantoms are intangible, they are imperceptible, means they cannot be touched by bare hands and they cannot be seen. Okay, so they are no physical being, they don't have a fixed shape and the size, they only have impressions left in the air. Then a sense of something moving to and fro. Now this shows a very delicate nature of these ghosts. So the poet here is not telling that what that something is, but yes, there is something that is moving to and fro. So you might not be able to see them, but yes, definitely sense them. So it might happen that while you are watching this video, you might feel a slight breeze around you. Now you may ask, why do they move around us to and fro? See, you know that people are always connected to their loved ones. So these connections might keep them attached to the places where these ghosts are constantly moving to and fro. So it's basically the bond, and that is the reason why they are always around us. Now moving on to the third stanza. There are more guests at table than the hosts invited. The illuminated hall is thronged with quiet, inoffensive ghosts, as silent as the pictures on the wall. So here also you can see that there's the rhyme scheme ABAB, hosts, ghosts, hall, ward. Okay. Now here the poet is saying that there are more guests at the table than the host has invited. No. So you know who those extra guests are. So those extra guests are these phantoms who are there in the hall uninvited. Now, this shows that their presence in the house, even though they cannot be seen. So here they are basically coexisting. The living and the dead, they are living together. Okay, means they are staying together. The illuminated hall here means that the hall where all the guests are sitting is well lit. ठीक है, अच्छी रोशनी है उस hall में. It is completely illuminated. So the hall is illuminated, and a throng duet. Throng duet means that the hall is crowded with whom? It is crowded with quiet and inoffensive ghosts. So, even though the ghosts are there, but how are they there? They're completely quiet and completely inoffensive. They are harmless. Inoffensive means harmless. So they are as silent as the pictures on the wall. So they are just present there. They're not interrupting anyone. They're not harming anyone. But yes, they are just there, okay? Silently observing the living people who can be though now those living people they can be their children, they can be their grandchildren, okay, or just someone whom they loved in their life when they were living, okay. So here the poet has used which poetic device in this line? It is simile, where we do the comparison clearly using the word as. So the ghosts are compared with the pictures on the wall. So you see the pictures, they aren't talking, okay? They're just silently there. So the ghosts, they are compared as the pictures on the wall, completely quiet, okay? Immovable, not moving anywhere, okay? Moving on to the fourth stanza of the poem. The stranger at my fireside cannot see the forms I see, nor the sounds I hear. He but perceives what is, while unto me all that has been is visible and clear. So, in this paragraph, now there's one person introduced, and that is a stranger. Again, you can see the rhyme scheme, and that is AB, see, me, hear, clear. Okay. Now, here the word stranger is referred to whom? It is referred to the visitor. Okay, visitor. So the poet says that this visitor who is sitting by the fireside, he cannot see the forms, he cannot see the ghosts that the narrator of the poem sees. And also, he cannot hear the sounds that he hears. He, that is the first he is for the stranger and the second he is for the narrator. Okay, don't get confused. Okay, so he, that is the visitor, he can only perceive and can only notice or can only realize the things that are visible around to the normal living people, the tangible ones. Okay, but the stranger can see the guests who are invited but cannot see the uninvited guests. And you know who the uninvited guests are? They are the ghosts. But then the narrator, what he does, he can see everything, okay? Everything that is visible. That is visible and everything that is not visible also, okay? He can see the living and also the dead. Okay, this is a kind of plot twist in the poem. So here the poet has shown the difference between the past and the present by using the word what? By using the word is. Okay, he but perceives what is. Okay, which means that the stranger can see the present. All that has been is visible, and while unto me all that has been is visible and clear. But the stranger can see what is visible and what is there in the present, but the narrator has seen the past also. Okay, past also, and all that is visible and clear. So the past, they can be the previous inhabitants of the place and the people who are there in the hall. Now, the narrator here can have the supernatural power to see the dead, or he might also be the one among the dead. Okay. Now, he can also be the one of the ghosts in the house. This thing is actually not made clear in this paragraph. Okay. So I know it might get little boring. See, I have tried to make it as short as possible, but at the same time it should be completely understandable for you all. Okay, I have used simple words only so that it is easy for you to grasp what I am telling. Okay, I'm not bombarding you with heavy words. And also there are videos where you can see explanations quite in a very elaborate way, but I thought to keep it just to the point, okay, so that it is only what you need. Okay, And also, if you have not subscribed the channel yet, then please do it. Okay. So I know it might get a little boring because the poem is very long. 10 stanzas are there in the poem. And this S.W. Longfellow, I don't know what happened to him. He's slowly drifting away from what he has started the poem with. Okay. But have patience. You have to study anyways. Okay. There's no other option. Like the video if you haven't done yet and share it among your friends so that they also might get a little help from this video. So getting back to our harmless ghosts, let's move on to the fifth stanza. We have no title deeds to house or lands, owners and occupants of earlier dates. From graves forgotten stretch their dusty hands and hold in mortmain still their old states. Here again, ABAB's rhyme scheme, lands, hands, states. Okay, so be ready because the poem is going to get a bit complicated from here. So this stanza now starts with what word? It starts with the word we. Now from this we understand that the narrator, that is I from the previous stanza just now which I discussed, the fourth stanza is also one of the ghosts. So it is clear in this paragraph that he is not having any supernatural power. He is actually one of the ghosts. So he is referring to his people as we. So here it is said that they, that is the ghosts, are the harmless phantoms who are moving freely around the house, and they are moving freely in the house, but they don't have the title deeds with them. Okay. So you know what a title deed is, right? Title deed is a legal document that proves the ownership of a property. So even though they are the ones who lived in that house, but still they don't have the proof that the property is actually theirs. Okay. Why so? Because they are no more. Now, the next line, owners and occupants of earlier dates, means that they are the past occupants of that house. They used to live there earlier. Now, from graves forgotten stretch their dusty hands. Now, here the poet has used a beautiful imagery that you can form a visual in your mind that a hand is coming out from the grave that is smudged with soil and mud. So, the narrator says that they stretch their dusty hands from the graves. Okay. Why dusty hands? Because they are now forgotten. They are staying in their graves from a very long time. People don't visit them. They don't offer flowers on their graves. And cold and mortmain still their old estates. Now, mortmain here again is a legal term. So even though the ghosts who were previous inhabitants of that particular place, of that particular house, they don't have the title deed, but they still hold on to the essence of the ownership of their old estates. So that property is like mortmain. That is the property that cannot be sold or cannot be transferred to anyone else. So basically, the narrator here expresses that even though they are not the legal owners of that house, but since they used to live there, so they have an attachment to it. And that might be the reason why they are still moving around in the house. Remember, moving to and fro? So they are sitting with the uninvited guests, and the poet quotes them as uninvited. Now, moving on to the sixth stanza, the spirit world around this world of sense floats like an atmosphere and everywhere wafts through these earthly mists and vapors dense, a vital breath of more ethereal air. Again, ABAB rhyme scheme, sense, dense, where, air, everywhere air, okay? So, the spirit around this world of sense. Here, you can see that the poet has used the word world two times. Okay, the spirit world around this world. Okay, two times he has used the word world. So, the spirit world, as the meaning is clear from the word itself, that it refers to the world of the spirits, the world of the ghosts, the world of the phantoms. Now, it represents the space of the dead people. So it is a world that cannot be perceived by the living. And remember the word we had used impalpable in the second stanza? So the spirit world is that, okay? It is imperceptible, it is intangible. Now, the world of sense. Now, world of sense, it means the world of the living, the world which we can perceive, okay, with our senses. Now, here the poet has written the lines in such a way as to show that these two worlds they coexist, they exist together. Now, the next line floats like an atmosphere and everywhere. So here the poet is talking about who is floating here, who can float like an atmosphere. So here the spirits, the spirit, the ghosts in the spirit world, they can float like an atmosphere. Atmosphere, why? Because as you can see, the atmosphere there, it is everywhere around us. It is not visible, but it is there. So, in the same way, the spirits, the ghosts, the phantoms, they are not visible. We cannot touch them, but they are everywhere. Here again, the poet has used which poetic device? It is simile because he has compared the world of ghosts with the atmosphere using the word light. Floats like atmosphere. Okay. Next, walks through these early mists and vapors deaths. So, walks here means to move or make something move gently through the air. Okay. So, these ghosts, they pass gently through the earthly mists and dense vapors. So, a vital breath of more ethereal air. So here the poet, now in this line, the poet portrays the spiritual world as the vital breath of more ethereal air, which means ethereal means extremely delicate, extremely light air, which can only be possible where? In the real world or in the spiritual world. It can only be possible in the spiritual world. Okay. I know that this is all getting very confusing, but don't worry because it is gonna get even more confusing. That is why sit with a clear mind to understand this poem. Moving on to the next stanza. Our little lives are kept in equipoise by opposite attractions and desires. The struggle of the instinct that enjoys and the more noble instinct that aspires. Now again, ABAB rhyme scheme. So the first line, our little lives are kept in equipoise. So here the poet is talking about the balance that is achieved by the opposite forces. Okay. Now here the balance, the equipoise. Okay, equipoise word means to maintain balance. So and also the poet has used the word little lives. Why little lives? Because he is trying to show how the life, the temporary nature of life, how temporary life is. Okay, it can be taken away from us at any time. Okay, we can die at any moment in our life. So our little lives are pulled by different forces. Suppose at one moment you want this, at another moment you want that. Okay, but somehow still the equilibrium is maintained, and that balance is maintained by what? It is maintained by the things we are attracted to and the desires we have. Now, here you can consider attraction as a negative connotation, okay, and desire as something positive, okay. So, as humans, we have this primal instinct to desire for something. Like as a student, what will be your primary desire? To get good marks, right? We have this thing to get attracted to things and have a desire. Because if there will be no desire in our life, then we will become saints, right? So, next two lines, the struggle of the instinct that enjoys and the more noble instinct that aspires. Now, it further the poet further says that two opposite forces that create equilibrium. So people who have these instincts for materialistic desires will enjoy them. Okay, but the people with even nobler instincts, okay? If they will aspire to become somebody great in their lives, okay? So here, basically, the poet, what he's doing, he's acknowledging the importance of being human. Now, as a student, you might have this instinct कि यार आज चलो दिन भर मस्ती करते हैं, पढ़ाई तो हम रोज ही करते हैं. But then there are others who are focused and dedicated to their studies. Why? Because they aspire to get excellent marks in the boards, okay? To score 100 out of 100 in English literature. And they can thank me later for that. Okay, but okay. And this is the particular thing. Okay, this thing distinguishes human being from the spirit world. So each one of us should have this desire to achieve something great. Okay, so to achieve something great in life instead of getting just tempted by the attractions around us. Moving on to the next stanza, these perturbations, this perpetual jar of earthly wants and aspirations high, come from the influence of an unseen star, an undiscovered planet in our sky. Now, again, we can see the rhyme scheme is ABAB, same. So these perturbations, so perturbation means mental disturbances, okay, mental uneasiness. So because of this constant conflict between our attractions and desires, this perpetual means forever, never ending, okay. So the poet says that this jar of materialistic desires, it is never ending, okay. So these desires are always, so this perpetual jar is always overflowing. So today, for example, like today you want Nike shoes, when it will be fulfilled, and then tomorrow you will want Rolex watch. Then if that will be fulfilled, then you will desire for a G-Wagon. So this basically never ends. And there is something or the other that we want. Okay, so these earthly wants and high aspirations, where do they come from? So they come from the influence of an unseen star. Okay, so according to the poet, all these wants we have, the desire to be rich, the desire to own a luxury car, the desire to be successful. So all these desires, these come because we are under the influence of an unseen star. Okay, some celestial body which has never been seen by anyone, or it can be a planet. Okay, as it is said in the last line, an undiscovered planet in our sky. Okay, so it can be a planet also that has never been discovered in the sky. Let's move on to the next stanza, ninth stanza. Okay, and as the moon from some dark diade of cloud throws over the sea a floating bridge of light, across whose trembling planks are fancies crowd into the realm of mystery and night. So here also rhymescape ABAB, cloud, crowd, light, night. Here in this paragraph, okay. So the poet has used very beautiful imagery. He says that the moon, okay, that the moon as it shines from above the cloud and that light is thrown over the sea. So that light falling from the sky, with the moonlight from the sky, it forms a bridge of light. So the moon here is creating a kind of magical path. Okay, the moonlight is acting like a floating bridge of light when it touches the sea. Now you might ask, why floating bridge? So floating bridge because see, the moonlight is being cast on the sea, correct? And you know that the sea waves, they are never stable, right? It's always moving. So they keep on flowing. So the light also, as it falls on it, it looks like a floating bridge of light. Next, across whose trembling planks are fancies crowd. So here, a trembling planks is used for the bridge. Okay, planks, you know, the flat pieces of wood जिसे जोड़ के ब्रिज बनाया जाता है. So here it is said trembling planks. Why? Why the bridge is trembling? Because the bridge is what? It is floating. It is unsteady. And what is the reason that these planks are trembling? They are vulnerable. Okay. It indicated that the bridge is very fragile. Okay. Very delicate. And this bridge, okay, the bridge that is created by the moonlight falling on the sea, it is connecting the world of physical and that of the spirit. So this bridge again has a very dreamlike appearance. So the poet is describing the journey of our imagination into the realm, into the region of mystery and night. Now, mystery and night, again, it suggests the world of the unknown, from the known world into the world of the mystery. Now, finally, the last stanza. So, from the world of the spirits, there descends a bridge of light, connecting it with this, over whose unsteady floor that sways and bends, wander our thoughts above the dark abyss. Okay. Now, the stanza, ABAB rhyme scheme. So, this starts with so, which means that it is a continuation. As you can see in the previous stanza, the after night there is a hyphen. It's not a hyphen actually; it's a dash. Okay. And this stanza starts with so, which means that it is a continuation of the previous stanza. So the poet says that this bridge of light, the moonlight, which connects the world of spiritual realm to ours, okay? So it is connecting the spiritual, the world of the spiritual realm to the world of the living, over whose unsteady floor that sways and bends. Now, wander our thoughts above the dark abyss. So here, unsteady floor. Unsteady floor is used for what? Unsteady floor is used for the bridge. It is vulnerable, as mentioned in the previous paragraph, that the bridge is unsteady and it sways, moves to and fro. Now, this bridge, it connects the world of the natural with the supernatural, and that is how our thoughts explore the unknown things of the supernatural world. Now, here the dark abyss refers to the unknown nature of the spiritual world. So, abyss means a hole that has no end, a bottomless hole. Okay. So, here the spiritual world, it is like a dark abyss. So, okay, we don't know for sure that what is in there. Okay. So I hope that now you must have understood the poem. If not, then watch the video 2-3 times. बार बार सुनो, इतना सुनो कि दिमाग में सारी बातें बैठ जाए. Then only you will be able to answer in the exams well. Okay, unless and until you will have a clear mind, you will not be able to express your thoughts in the answer. Okay, share the video among your friends. As I always say, थोड़ा इनका भी भला हो जाए. See you all in my next video with the explanation of the poem When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. I'll upload the explanation of the poem The Globe and the Lions by Lee Hunt later. Why? Because the questions were asked from this poem this year only in the boards 2025. So the chances of being asked from the same poem in the next year's boards 2026 are very low. Okay. So see you in my next poem. Till then, bye bye. Take care.